Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Sales Management for Dummies by Butch Bellah, narrated by Sorensen. Introduction. I'd like you to consider taking over as Vice President of Sales. I can still hear those words ringing in my ears more than 20 years after they were uttered by the man who is my mentor to this day. At the time, he was president of the company and had called me into his office one afternoon in early 1995. Was I in trouble? Had I done something wrong? He and I had a great relationship, but a closed-door spur-of-the-moment meeting was a bit strange. I'm not sure you... Are you? I stuttered and stammered for a few moments, trying to let what I had just heard sink in. I'm not bucking for a promotion right now. I can remember managing to get out through the hemming and hawing. I realize that, but I want you to take over the entire sales department. I'd be lying if I said this wasn't my goal, but now? I hadn't even been with the company for a decade yet, and had entered below the lowest rung on the ladder. In fact, I couldn't even see the ladder. I got promoted twice before I found the ladder. I'd only been a division sales manager for a few years at the time. Being a vice president was part of my goal, but not necessarily this fast. The tone of his voice let me know that this was a bit more than a request. It was a challenge. It was time to get in the game or shirk back to the bench. I'm really not trying to take anyone else's job. I'm just trying to do the best I can as a division sales manager. His next few words let me know it was now or never. If you don't do this, I'm going to have to hire someone else who will. And so began my career in sales management. I inherited an entire sales department of more than 25 people, most of whom had been with the company or in the industry a lot longer than I had. I took over with no direction, no roadmap, no instruction book, and really no past experience to draw from. To say I was flying blind is an understatement. If I was going to learn to be a leader, I was going to have to go with gut instinct and make it up as I went. I didn't have a fallback plan, and failure wasn't an option. I'd been hired at 21, been made sales division manager at 25, and now, at not even 30, I was being handed the job of managing a sales department generating about $75 million a year in sales. Do you think I'm ready? I asked. If I didn't, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I took the job, and through a lot of missteps, mistakes, and complete meltdowns, grew that company to more than $250 million a year in sales before acquiring controlling interest in the company with a business partner just 5 short years later. I always wished I had a book in which to look things up. Now I give you what I never had. About this book. You're listening to the book I always wished I had. In it, you'll find real-world experience drawn from many years, more than I care to remember, and even more mistakes while I was suffering through a lot of OJT. For those of you new to the world of management, OJT stands for On-the-Job Training. This book truly is my gift to you. My experiences, lessons learned, and all the broken bones and skinned knees of learning to manage a sales team laid bare. I won't tell you this book will keep you from making any mistakes. We both know it won't. But it can help you learn from the ones I made and minimize the ones you have to experience firsthand. Throughout the book, I use real-world stories and situations I believe you can relate to. I use a lot of sports analogies because I think a sports coach is as close to a sales manager as you can get. The two share similar philosophies, goals, and ideals. Some of the examples I use may describe the exact situation you face, and you can see how I handled it, and whether that was the right call. Spoiler alert, it wasn't close. If you're like most managers, you've said to yourself more than once, "I'll bet this never happened to anybody else." Well, yeah, it did. It happens to everyone. All that stuff you think is exclusive to you isn't. All sales managers go through similar, if not identical, situations. And all sales managers tend to think they're the only one who has to deal with their particular issues. Just wait until you go to a trade show or industry function and talk to other managers. You'll come home thinking, "Wow, I'm glad I'm not that guy." I attempt to paint you a picture of the world of sales management, and that picture isn't always pretty. There are ups and downs, highs and lows, but I can say without hesitation I have never wanted to do anything else. You represent the greatest profession on earth. Unfortunately, there is a low barrier of entry into sales, and it seems as if anyone thinks he can just go be a salesman. As you probably know, it takes a strong, disciplined, creative sales manager to make things work. Anyone can call himself a salesperson, but that doesn't make him a professional salesperson. That's where you come in. You're the reason I wrote this book, so you can help me create more professional salespeople in this world. That's what I ask of you in exchange for all these years of knowledge and experience. Help me produce more professional salespeople in this world. I use the term salesperson throughout the book. Let me say up front that I've found that great salespeople and duds come in both genders. I alternate pronouns with each chapter. Even-numbered chapters use female pronouns and males get the odd-numbered chapters. Although my experience was primarily in business-to-business sales, I worked hard to include those of you in retail sales and other business-to-consumer organizations. From automobiles to, well, something that starts with a Z, I try to include everyone. Also, this book isn't written just for those who are managing worldwide teams doing hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. You can certainly benefit if that describes you, but my advice is also applicable to managers whose sales team consists of herself and a part-timer. Hey, you have to start somewhere. Foolish assumptions. Anytime an author writes a book, they have to make certain assumptions about the listener, and I did. My first assumption is you're a sales manager, or you're about to become one, who wants to improve your performance and the performance of your sales team. I assume you understand the sales process and the role you, the sales manager, play in it. But perhaps my biggest assumption is that you know there are things you don't know. You understand there are things you still have to learn, questions you need answered, and a guiding light through some tough situations. If that sounds like you, I'm glad we met. Icons used in this book. Throughout this book, I use certain icons to call your attention to specific text. These are the places where your highlighter generally comes into use. Here's what they each mean. Tip. This is a tip from me to you. This entire book is filled with useful information, but there are times I want you to be aware of a certain passage. These little tips are your chance to learn from my experience. Remember. Again, I hope you find the entire book memorable. Heck, I want you to highlight the whole thing. But when you hear this icon, pay close attention. Whether you need it now or not, this denotes something I believe is worth filing in your mental bank. Warning. Pay special attention when you hear this one. It's called warning for a reason. These will save you time, money, embarrassment, and heartache. I know from experience. Newsflash. I use this icon for situations and passages of text where you may think you know the answer, but I want to make sure. These are things my late mother would have prefaced with, "I've got news for you, young man." Well, you get the picture. Beyond the book. In addition to all the information regarding becoming a great sales manager included within this book, I put together a few little bonuses that you can access anytime, anywhere on the web. I include some questions to ask when hiring a new salesperson, offer advice on how to handle conflict between two salespeople, and give you several more goodies at dummies.com. Just click over to dummies.com/cheat sheet/sales management and see what all I have for you there. You can also access some bonus material at my website, including a free digital copy of my previous book, The 10 Essential Habits of Sales Superstars, Plugging into the Power of 10, by going to butchbellah.com/free 10 habits. That's BUTCHBELLAH.com/free 10 habits. On top of several hundred blog posts on sales, sales management, and more at my website at butchbellah.com, you can also find out information and sample videos on my speaking at butchbellah.com/speaking, and information and ways to contact me regarding sales training at butchbellah.com/coaching-and-training. Finally, I'd love to hear from you, the sales managers making a difference in this world. Share your stories of triumph and tragedy, hopefully more of the former, by emailing me at butch@butchbellah.com. Where to go from here? This book wasn't written with the idea that you'd listen to all of it in one sitting. It doesn't have wizards, vampires, or zombies, and I didn't have the opportunity to kill off a main character during the slow parts to keep you interested. I am the main character, so that was definitely out of the question. Here's the good part. You don't even have to like this to get something out of it. It's not really designed to be used as a textbook or something you listen to in your bed like the latest novel or romance story. In fact, you're probably not going to listen to it from beginning to end, and that's okay. You can start anywhere. Just pick a spot and jump in. This book is assembled so you can easily find the chapter or heading on what issue you're facing right now. Listen to it, absorb it, highlight it, and then keep it nearby to be referred to the next time a fire is ablaze and you're searching for an extinguisher. However, if you want a suggested place to start, especially if you ever want a suggestion, check out Chapter 4, where I guide you through assessing what you have to work with in your organization right now, or Chapter 7, where I dive into the fun of training your team. Part 1. Welcome to the world of sales management. Web extras. Find additional content at dummies.com/extras/sales management. In this part, understand the role of a sales manager. Find out what you are and what you are not. Define your expectations and establish your own management style. The old manager isn't there any longer. Now it's your turn. See the importance of establishing good working relationships across departments. Now you're in a position where every other department in the company is affected by you and can affect you. It's important to have good rapport. Find ways to communicate clearly and consistently. Your ability to communicate is one of the most important parts of your job. Chapter 1. You're a sales manager. Now what? In this chapter, getting to know your new role, making the leap from salesperson to sales manager, inspiring, coaching, and guiding your team, getting to know your inherited team, establishing your own management style. You've probably worked for years to get to be a sales manager. You've put in the time on the sales floor or in the field, and now it's your turn to take the next step. You've been offered and accepted the job, and now you're chewing antacids like gum, sweating bullets, and feeling nauseous. Hey, welcome to management. Seriously, it's perfectly normal to be nervous and question whether you can do the job. Anyone who ever gets promoted goes through similar feelings, and if they tell you they don't, they're probably not being totally truthful. Now calm yourself. You can do this. In this first chapter, I explore the traits and functions of a sales manager and briefly touch on a few topics I cover in more depth later. By the time I'm done, you'll be a confident, successful, efficient manager leading a team of great salespeople. And if it doesn't work, just take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. Understanding your role as a sales manager. It's important to know how great sales managers operate, how they manage their team, and how they remain productive themselves. The role is ever-changing, but has several core duties and responsibilities which cross almost all industry lines. Managing the sales team, establishing goals and quotas, training and developing sales skills, assigning and defining geographical territories, counseling and leading individual salespeople, reporting data to upper management, creating incentive programs, establishing budgets, hiring and firing salespeople. Are there other tasks you do as a sales manager? Sure. You'll always add new responsibilities to your plate, but you can pretty much expect to handle the jobs on this list when you get the job. In fact, many of them may have been in your job description. Acknowledging what you are and what you're not. As a professional sales manager, you assume many roles: motivator, cheerleader, sounding board, ear to vent to, teacher, judge, shoulder to cry on, and everything in between. As the leader of your department, the buck really does stop with you. The responsibility that comes with the job is enormous and can be a bit overwhelming. Remember, you can only do one thing at a time, and you can only do your best. When in doubt, remember these words: do the best you can with what you have to work with. At some point, you will wonder whether you're in the sales department or management. The truth is, you're in both, and you have to be able to mold and shape yourself to fit the situation you're in. There will be times when you must make very hard management decisions, and times where you have to defend your sales department against the decisions of others. Sometimes you won't know which role you're playing. There's no cut-and-dried way to tell when to be more sales or more management. There's no right or wrong answer. There's a lot of gray area. You have to go with your gut. Tip: as long as you're consistent, you'll be fine. Don't try to please everyone. Be consistent in your actions, decisions, and how you run your department, and you'll be ahead of the game. You're the conduit between management and sales. You're the person other department heads are going to look to for information regarding what's happening to the company's sales. The next minute, you're answering to salespeople and explaining something the company decided to do. It's a juggling act, but a manageable one if you just do the best you can with what you have to work with. Newsflash: as important as it is to know what you are, it's just as important to know what you are not. You're not a psychic who can read minds and predict the future of the company's sales down to the penny. Everyone is going to ask you to, but you can't. You have to use past history and your instincts to set budgets, goals, and sales forecasts, all of which now come from your desk. You're also not the secretary for the sales department. Don't get me wrong, but I'll be the first to say you work for your sales team instead of them working for you. But don't let yourself get caught up in doing their tasks. That's not what you're there for. I point out ways to help you avoid this huge bear trap in Chapter 2. Warning: if you set the tone early of doing things for people, they will continue to expect that behavior. Your job is to make your people better, not dependent. It's now about how your team performs, not how you perform, a feeling that can be both invigorating and scary. Inspiring, coaching, and leading. When it really comes down to it, your purpose is to inspire, coach, and lead your department. Sales is the only department in the company that contributes to profits. Everything else is an expense. If your company is going to not just survive but thrive, it will be in large part due to how your department performs. Remember, inspire your sales team to want to achieve more and to believe they can and will. Note, I didn't say motivate them. I believe motivation has to come from within. You can't motivate your people. They have to motivate themselves. However, you can and must inspire them. Coach them to improve their skills. Your job is to observe, provide feedback, take corrective action, and go again. Then observe, provide feedback, take corrective action, and do it all over and over and over. You're in a constant state of coaching and training as new techniques, new systems, and new ways to communicate with your prospects and buyers are created. Lead your team in a manner they want to follow. A leader doesn't say, "Go do this." A leader says, "Let's go do this." How you conduct yourself has as big an impact on your sales department as any words coming from your mouth. Remember, poet and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "What you do speaks so loudly I cannot hear what you say." Leadership is taking action, not only speaking. As a sales manager, you have a lot to digest, but understand you take this journey one step at a time. You're not the manager today you'll be a year from now or 5 years from now. If you had all these answers and knew how to do all these things already, you would have been a sales manager years ago. Be patient and learn. Transitioning from salesperson to sales manager. It may be only one step on the ladder of your career, but it's a big one where you move from being a salesperson to becoming a sales manager. Gone are the days of having to concern yourself only with your own sales and keeping up with what's happening only with your customers in your own territory. Now you're responsible for the whole ball of wax. The nice thing is, although the skill set of a great salesperson and a great sales manager are drastically different, the same drive, attitude, and burning desire that put you in this position is what will help you excel at this position. Just because you have a new nameplate on the door or a new title on the business card doesn't mean you'll forget everything you've learned up to this point. In fact, you'll find yourself relying a lot on your past experience, especially as you coach and train other salespeople to grow their business. Warning: the transition from salesperson to sales manager can be especially tough on salespeople who are replacing a previous manager who was either ineffective or fell short in some way. You may face a situation where your immediate predecessor didn't set the best example. That's okay. You want to make the team your team, and if you're stepping into a situation like this, it won't take much to look like the knight in shining armor. Same barn, different stall. Many a new sales manager's biggest obstacle is going from sitting in the sales meeting and listening to sales training to now being the sales trainer. You need to take this role with a certain amount of humbleness because nobody wants to follow a leader who is constantly regurgitating, "Let me tell you how I used to do it." Your first order of business is to earn your team's respect through your actions, not your words. When you approach the job focusing on how you can help them, not how they can help you, your entire mindset shifts. You use different words, and you have a sincere desire to serve. Remember, Your job is to make your salespeople successful. As you take on the role of the leader, manager, and trainer, step back and let them know that you're viewing their process and practices from a slightly different angle. You get to see what they're doing through a new lens. Newsflash. I can promise you I managed salespeople who were much smarter, more talented, and better salespeople than I was. Nobody ever said the best salesperson is the next sales manager. It doesn't work like that. There's no correlation between being a great salesperson and being a great sales manager. The skills that make a great salesperson have nothing to do with being a great manager. Some of the biggest mistakes I've ever seen have been when the best salesperson was put in charge of a sales team. Great salespeople can be great at sales, but terrible at managing. To be a great sales manager, you need to be a strong manager first. That's the skill you use more than any other. Think of your new job this way. You have a racehorse capable of winning the Kentucky Derby, but the current trainer just isn't able to get the best out of that horse. So the owner turns the training over to you. Same horse, different trainer. If you know anything about sports or horse racing, you know a small change can have a big impact on a horse, just the same as a team responds differently to a new coach or manager. Remember, as sales manager, you're not there to upset the apple cart and start over completely. You're simply there to take what you have and make it the best it can be while adding new talent to the roster. Your best strategy is to simply find out how you can help each person. Past experience can lead to future success. The "this is how I did it" style of management gets old very quickly with a seasoned sales team. They aren't interested in what you did. They want to know what you can do for them. I'm going to hazard a guess that when you first became a salesperson, you devoured training materials, read a lot of books, and really studied your craft. You put in the time to be good at what you did, and the results were there. The same holds true for sales management. You're not expected to be a superstar from day one. Everyone in the organization understands, or should understand, that you have a nice little learning curve ahead of you as you navigate not only your own department, but how it interacts with other departments. The experience you gained as a salesperson dealing with different personalities, being committed to learning and growing, and having a burning desire deep within you to be the best you can be, are the exact same traits that can make you a great sales manager. Tip: you've displayed the characteristics of a sales manager already, or you wouldn't have the job. The single biggest thing you can do is to give yourself time to learn. You're starting over again, and Rome wasn't built in a day. Assessing your current team. One of the first orders of business after a new sales manager gets settled in is to take an accurate, honest look at the current sales team to see who you're working with. I refer to the salespeople like a professor would a classroom full of college students. You want to know who are your A students. You need to figure out how to continue to keep their fires lit and challenge them to grow and progress from where they are now. Nobody on your team is as good as they can be. Trust me. You need to identify your B students and find out how you can move them into the group with the A's. You need to identify your C students because you'll spend some time with them to determine if they have a future with you or not. Warning. Most importantly, you need to get to know the D and F students. They're the ones who run you ragged. These are the people who constantly complain and fret over every little thing and blame their lack of sales on the government, global warming, and anything else they can come up with. These are the ones who can drag you down and take your focus away from the salespeople who really need your attention. Don't let them. Grading on a curve. One of the interesting parts of your first few months as a new sales manager is assessing your team. Although looking at their sales numbers is good, As the sales manager, you now have access to data you never had before, namely the gross profit each salesperson generates and their accounts receivable.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?